Star of the Sea. Roman can't remember the last time he was this excited for anything. And he wasn't alone. Remus was so eager to set sail that he actually joined Roman in helping the crew get ready. His brother wasn't lazy. If Roman was honest, his brother could work the hardest out of both of them. It was just harder to motivate him to put in effort. Roman was always happy to earn the love and respect a crown prince should strive for. Remus was motivated by what he would call more interesting ambitions, usually meaning a prank. This time, however, interesting meant the very unlikely chance of encountering a certain morally ambiguous individual. Do you think the lightning will strike? Remus asked the crew member as they were securing some of the cargo. The sailor laughed. You mean the faint pirate storm? Not likely. I can see why he would attack this vessel. He has never targeted this kingdom's banner before, the sailor stated. Pirate Storm had been active for only a few years, but had quickly made a name for himself. His raids were quick, and he never took more than what he came for. His crew had never left behind more than a broken nose or something of the sort. It spoke to their skill that they could do what they did and never leave behind a serious injury. They picked their targets with care. Usually the vessel was involved in some sort of injustice, a bad ruler, smuggling, extortion. Still, even when the crew arguably deserved a rougher hand, Storm never allowed his crew to cause more damage than necessary to complete their mission. A raid of his crew was referred to as a lightning strike because of how fast it happened. The pirate captain got his nickname because all anyone could ever see of his face were his stormy gray eyes. Loot often ended up back with the people or rightful owners. He was a true Robin Hood of the seas. And he was both the young prince's heroes. Though Remus was the only one vocal about it. Their parents didn't approve of vigilantism, and no matter how Roman admired him, he did not wish to worry his parents with the knowledge that both their sons admired this enigma of a man. Remus, however, took it a bit farther than Roman, actually hoping to get whisked away on dazzling adventures. Their kingdom was not a likely target. Roman was involved enough with the court at this point that he could say that with certainty. Besides, they were on a diplomatic trip, not much to reclaim for the people, even if they had been taxing unfairly, which they hadn't. You hope for the strangest things, brother, he sighed as he tightened his last knot. The sailor who was in charge of supervising their helpful efforts checked his work and gave him a pat on the back. Not bad. If you get bored of ruling the kingdom, you might want to give sailing a go, he offers kindly. Roman felt a burst of pride. As a prince, he was often accused of being spoiled and lacking actual skill, something both he and Remus always took as a challenge. I'm afraid a life on the sea is a bit too rough for my tastes, but I'm glad I'm no burden to you, he offered smoothly. The sailor laughs. Well, you certainly have the words of politics. I'll give you that, he allowed. Get settled, my lads. We'll be on our way soon, he instructed, and with that both princes headed to their room. Roman glanced back before descending the stairs, seeing the sailor refasten a few knots, though he left quite a few of Roman's as they were. He smiled, knowing now that the sailor hadn't just been telling him what he wanted to hear. As they arrived, Remus collapsed on the lower bunk bed. Why is it so weird that I wouldn't mind getting tied to a mast by a handsome rogue? He ponders. Remus, please, Roman sighed. What? His mother challenged. What makes you think he's handsome? No one has ever seen his face. And what we know of his looks is through a sketch artist's interpretation, Roman pointed out, not mentioning that he too had maybe thought about getting cornered by that same pirate a few times. He, however, had dismissed those thoughts, simple products of a fairly boring life. Of course he craved excitement, which was exactly why he was glad they got to have this trip, living out just a bit of this fantasy of theirs. You're being such a killjoy, Remus complained with a yawn. Roman rolled his eyes, but let his brother fall asleep. As predicted, their days on the ship were rather peaceful, though never dull. That is, until one night. Woman and Remus both woke up to shouts and running on deck. They left their beds, still in their sleeping attire. though they remembered to take their swords. Once they came on deck, they were greeted with chaos. Masked men and women were fighting with the crew of their ship all around. Their captain engaged in a fierce duel with a masked figure in a long coat and a big hat. They both charged in to help the captain. Remus soon had to fend off an opponent of his own, though. By the time Roman reached the captain, the masked assailant hit him in the back of the head, making him fall to the ground unconscious. The man, the leader of the bunch, turned his sword on Roman. Without hesitation, the prince barely parrying him. Grey eyes met green, and Roman realized with a start who this was. Storm didn't give him much time to process, though. He unleashed a series of attacks Roman just barely held up on against. Why won't you be a good prince and just surrender? I don't intend to hurt you, the pirate promised. I'll never kneel for the likes of you, Roman hissed, and he went on the offensive, only to get sidestepped, disarmed, cuffed, and kicked in the back of his knee, forcing him in exactly that situation. A blade was at his neck. Then slowly it traveled to the front where it gently lifted his chin, making him look up in those fabled eyes. Roman would be lying if he said his heart didn't skip a beat. Remus was going to kill him. I wasn't going to ask you to kneel, but I guess here we are anyway. The gruff voice seemed amused. Can't say I mind, he added with a wink. Then he looked up. Ah, seems we're all done here, he concluded. He reached down and pulled Roman to his feet by his cuffs, and led him over the deck where the entire crew was getting tied and gathered at the center. Roman was put down next to his brother. All right, everyone. Good news. We are not here to kill you or steal anything. I understand, though, that you might have objections to sailing under a temporary replacement captain, so I brought my own crew to temporarily take control of the ship. Again, this is not a permanent situation. None of you are our target, Storm promised. Woman kept glaring at him, just for the principle of it. He wondered if Remus had realized who had led the attack yet. As for the princess, one shall accompany me, the other shall remain here with the rest of you under supervision of my first mate. The seats? The man who dueled Remus stepped forwards and nodded. My pleasure, Captain. Which one shall you take with you? He asked. Storm looked down at the brothers and tapped his sword under Roman's chin once more. This one, he decided. The seat stiffened. The Crown Prince? They'll expect him to be with you, he pointed out. And still, I'd feel much more comfortable if I could keep an eye on him myself. Thank you for your concern, though, the captain stated as he made Roman stand up. Judging by the way Remus's posture deflated in disappointment, he'd figured out who had captured them. Roman hoped that Remus fully believed that Storm wouldn't hurt him. Otherwise, he'd be a bit hurt that his brother didn't show more concern. Let's move, people. These ships won't change course on their own, Storm ordered. Aye, aye, Captain, the crew chorused, while Storm led Roman to the gangplank and onto the deck of what Roman had to assume was his ship. Once he set foot on deck, Storm leaned in and whispered in his ear, sending shivers down his spine. I have to get some things in order first. You can get a change of clothes and I'll get you some breakfast. Then I'll explain what's going on, he assured him gently. And then, with a more taunting, or was it teasing, tone, I trust you can be a good prince for a few minutes while I make sure we can set sail safely. Roman simply clenched his jaw and turned away stubbornly. Storm just chuckled. Get him to my quarters, please. Release his bond before you close the door. He instructed someone, who silently followed the orders. When Roman's cuffs were released, he had no shot at taking advantage of this fact. He was pushed inside the cabin, and the door was shut behind him. He looked around fuming. It was a neat space. It had a well-made bed and a clean desk, a closet and a full-length mirror. On the bed, though, was a small pile of folded clothes. For him? He inspected the ensemble, and found that it was indeed a set of nice clothes. The coat even in his favorite shade of red. How did he know that? Deciding that he would be taken more seriously if he was not in his sleeper next time he spoke to the captain, he put them on. He'd only just finished adjusting his collar when the door opened. He spun around and faced his captor? Host? He was acting very confusing here earlier. And now he greeted Roman's mistrust with a chuckle. I suppose, if I want you to feel welcome here, I should take off the mask, huh? He wondered. Woman's heart sped up. Oh God, what if he really was handsome? He was having enough trouble with just the eyes. He was determined, though. He would not be swayed. Oh no, he wasn't handsome. He was cute and handsome too. That just wasn't fair. Freckles, a gentle nose, and a strong jaw, smooth, pale skin, and the pirate who kidnapped him. Can't forget that. I taught you to be a man of honor, Remus stated firmly. No pleasantries, huh? Okay, I do live by a code. As you noticed, no one got seriously hurt. And you'll be back in the palace as soon as the possible, Charming. Don't you worry. It's just not safe for you right now. Not with the pending coup. Woman stiffened at that. My parents will be smuggled away the second things get hairy. My informant has planned it all out quite nicely. Your teacher really is something, he offered calmly, as he walked to the desk and put down a tray Woman hadn't paid attention to before. It had bread, fruit, cheese, meat, and something to drink. Storm sat down and gestured to the chair on the other side. Sit. Eat, he instructed. Woman didn't know what to do other than humoring the man. My teacher? Master Logan? He verified as he took some things to eat. He had to keep up his strength, if nothing else. Storm nodded. Yes, he said to tell you that robins don't nest near crows. Whatever that means. The captain shrugged. The woman knew. It was a code phrase, something to signal that he was safe and uncompromised. Most of the royal inner circle had a set of phrases like that. One to indicate the person saying it could be trusted, one to show they were compromised, one to show their actions were being monitored and or directed by an unfriendly person. Logan wouldn't give the safe sentence if it wasn't indeed safe. Roman relaxed at that. Guess it's a good thing I didn't forget that message, Storm mused as he sat up. Well, let's get back to basics. I am known as Storm, but my true name is Virgil. I am the youngest son of the Cartier family. Roman nodded with a frown. He knew of that family. A few of their children went missing a while ago. Security in all noble houses went up after that. Me and two of my brothers, you already saw thee, got abducted on a sea voyage a few years ago. But we managed to get the upper hand, gain the respect of the pirates, and next thing I knew, I was wearing a captain's hat and braving the seas. I sent a letter to my mother as soon as I could, explaining that I wanted to make the kingdoms a better place before I took my place in court. I never intended to remain Storm my entire life. I'm not sure what Rem wants to do. Dee seems more than willing to take the man role on after I quit. Virgil chuckled. And it seems you're my retirement announcement. Your teacher uncovered a plot against your family and plotted against that for the past month or so. He managed to contact me, and of course I accepted. It's kind of poetic, don't you think? It started with a kidnapping at sea, and now it will end with one too. He smiled. And what a dazzling, mischievous smile it was. No, focus, Roman. It was still big trouble. Even if Storm or Virgil was not the danger. What is going to happen now? He asked. Virgil shrugged. As we understand it, the people after you planned on sinking the ship just a little ways off the coast, blaming it on your soon-to-be allies. Get some extra chaos going to distract the grieving parents from what's happening around them. You won't be coming that route now, though, seeing as the ship is seized by pirates. You hope they'll make mistakes once their original plan derails. Until then, he leaned forwards and looked the woman in the eye. I am going to keep you alive at all costs, he said slowly. Woman flashed another. Thank you, he stammered, flustered. Virgil chuckled and tapped his nose as he collected their breakfast. Don't worry, Highness. You'll get to sit on that throne one day, he assured him. And Woman would. Wiser, thanks to many an adventure had besides his beloved king. Remus would be off continue Virgil's work alongside Dee, or Janice, as Woman learned during their courtship. Rem or Remy ended up returning home and taking over court duties from his parents. The coup failed so spectacularly, thanks to Logan's planning, people would barely even talk about it. And eventually, even the people who did know what had been happening barely thought of those who came to hurt them. Instead, they spoke of how it was the start of this new and exciting chapter in their lives.